The Swag Bag, brought to you by the Sports Stop of New Hampshire. Everything lacrosse. Visit SportsStopNH.com.
Sports Stop of New Hampshire is your locally owned and operated one-stop shop for everything lacrosse. Sports Stop of New Hampshire carries all brands of lacrosse equipment for both boys and girls. It's easy to get to, and they're partnered with one of the country's largest .com retailers, so if they don't have it, they can get it. Whether it's beginner packages, team sales, or a huge selection of restringing supplies, Sports Stop of New Hampshire knows your team. Sports Stop of New Hampshire, 273 South River Road in Bedford. Call 603-606-1921 or email lacrosse@sportstopnh.com. Kyle Devitte live in studio of Inside Lacrosse Magazine. Good morning, sir.
What's happening?
We are good. The restringing options have gotten larger at Sports Stop New Hampshire. Some new things you can do. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, I think I've touched on it before. There's a big difference between the technology that's developed in mesh specifically in the last 5 years for sure.
Really?
Everybody that has played lacrosse for more than 10 years knows that, mesh was just made out of like nylon. It was like one option. You could put some colors on it, hard mesh, soft mesh, and that was it.
Cheap?
Yeah, cheaper. Quality, I would say. It lasted not as long as the newer meshes. The newer meshes are, a little pricier, usually around like $15 for just the piece, which seems like a lot, especially if you're not aware of the advances and stuff like that. There's mesh is infused with wax. Now they have different weaves to the mesh to give it different texture, different thickness, different weight, and millimeter measurement. The standard millimeter for like a old style mesh, quote unquote, I'm making hand quotes, you can't see it, is around like 15 millimeters. And now the industry standard is around 17.5. So it's a little easier to get a nice pocket if you know how to string. And one of the things that Sports Stop did that they changed is, that you can get all these different meshes now with set prices that reflect the mesh, as opposed to like a flat, like $30 plus the cost of the mesh kind of thing.
Right.
There's actually like worked into the price is the cost of the mesh and a little break for the consumer. So I thought that was pretty cool to bring up. And, the differences are, stark. I think playing with an older piece of mesh, like you can still play with it. You can, I can still string a good pocket with anything.
Right.
Like give me some fishing line and it'll be fine. But like if you string an old pocket and you play with it the exact same amount as one of these newer meshes, the newer meshes are just flat out going to last longer. That's just how it is.
Just better material.
Better
right?
material, more attention paid in the manufacturing process, and there are new companies coming up every couple years. East Coast Dyes makes a mesh that's really popular right now. Mark Mesh had mesh that was really popular about 3 or 4 years ago. They're coming back on now. Throne of String, which is a place out of Brooklyn, New York, has new mesh.
Is this something the average lacrosse fan is aware of, or is this more for the equipment-minded players?
I think the kids all know about it. If you're in high school or younger, you know all about this stuff.
Okay.
Everyone that's like probably over 18 is like, what is he talking about? I don't know what's going on. But that's that's what the segment's for, is to kind of like bring in and educate.
Absolutely.
And there are my favorite thing on these options that they added, and this is my personal little thing, is in traditional, you used to be able to put a V in the traditional, and I had to string it, and it made me so mad because you can't string a good V in a traditional. It just doesn't, and it's not made for that.
Right.
That's like a really nerdy thing that like 5 people are going to get that's listening to this, but I'm very excited about not having to look at, it says V again. This is going to be terrible. You always want to have the best quality when you're playing with stuff.
Again, our guest is Kyle Devitte of Inside Lacrosse Magazine, presented by the Sports Stop of New Hampshire, live in studio with us here at FNL Lacrosse. I'll bring in the two coaches here in the room. Is that something that you guys look into when, I guess, selecting your equipment for your teams?
Well, I mean, I let all my players pick out their own stuff. Kyle's right. Anyone under the age of, say, 15 they know all about this stuff. I'm very traditional. I still believe it's the wand It's not the wand, it's the magician. But I will say, I think I'm using String King mesh now. I let my players pick it out for me because they know better than I do. And it does make a difference. I mean, my pocket stays good. I play outdoors in the rain, everything else. It's nice. But I'm not big into the equipment stuff. I barely wear pads, for crying out loud, but...
Well, you're maybe more old school than
old
some,
school.
I suppose.
Yeah, there you go.
What about you, Coach?
I love it.
From me, it's on them. I said, make sure your equipment's legal. Illegal sticks we don't tolerate. The other day we had a kid. He's over there not the whole practice, for the first 15 minutes of practice fixing a stick. What's going on? Let's get out there. He goes, Coach, the humidity's just killing my stick. It's killing it. So they do know, and I'm like, does this really have any, Kyle, does that have any validity to it?
No.
I think it used to.
Yeah, I think it does. You know what? So it does.
Maybe it would with leather? Maybe?
I don't know.
Yeah,
It does. It makes the pocket bag out a little more, becomes a little stickier. So they're very in tune. If for me, if people come to me and say, what do you go with? I say, go to Sports Stop, get String King, and that's the best option out there right now, because it used to be soft mesh or hard mesh.
Yeah.
Soft mesh, too much of a bag. Hard mesh just doesn't break in, doesn't have the feel. String King is right in between, and it's unbelievable what kind of stick you can get instantly. It strings up, and you're ready to play.
So if you're unsure, just let the guys at Sports Stop make the decision for you. Again, 273 South River Road in Bedford. Kyle, while we got you, I'd like to get your thoughts on the NCAA lacrosse quarterfinals yesterday. We saw Notre Dame take out Albany 14-10, and Ohio State went down swinging but losing to Denver 15-13. Quarter matchups today. Hopkins is at Syracuse. That's a noontime start. You can watch it on ESPN2. That'll be followed by North Carolina and Maryland in that 3-6 matchup at 2:30. What do you like today, and what did you see yesterday?
What do I like today? I love the Syracuse attack. They're like, if I could just hang out with a team, just to maybe get some skill by osmosis, hanging out with them. I think Kevin Rice is the most technical player in the NCAA for the last maybe 5 to 10 years. Because he's not, when you watch him play, he's not super athletic. He doesn't overpower people with that. He uses footwork. He uses technique. He uses vision, game sense. His game IQ is off the charts. I love watching him play, and he has the perfect cast around him with the lefty sniper Donahue. Randy Statz is you were talking about being a magician. He's a magician. Yeah. He's a wizard. He is great. He has unbelievable hands.
I agree with you on that, Kyle, but I'm going with Hopkins today.
Oh.
You have a team. Now, I don't want to say Syracuse is going in the wrong direction, but Hopkins, as we discussed last week with Virginia going the wrong way. Hopkins just blew them out 19-7. Hopkins is a team that is just believing in themselves. They're hot right now, and they're getting goalie play. I mean, they're getting goalie play, which their goalie for the first 3 quarters, maybe even 80% of the season, was down in the bottom 3 of save percentage. So to me, that's key. On the Albany Notre Dame game yesterday, you talked a little bit about it.
Yep.
Lightning delay for an hour and a half. You had the teams go on runs, and it's for you get to see Lyle Thompson now in the MLL being a big. Yes. Everybody gets to see him, but it was a great career came to an end yesterday.
Yeah, I think if we're just talking about the game, looking at the game, I was watching it, and the lightning delay helped. I was actually playing in my college alumni game and got to go see it afterwards.
So it worked perfect.
It worked perfect. I was very lucky. So I was watching the game, and Albany makes that great run, right? They go up 9-8. And I'm just kind of sitting there, and I was talking to actually the head coach at Clark, Jeff Cohen, and he was just like, what's going to happen? I'm like, if Albany doesn't take care of the ball, Notre Dame's going to come back and smash them. And he's like, what? Because at that point, you don't see that. But seeing both those teams, play the whole season, Notre Dame shreds you with work ethic and mental toughness. So I knew Notre Dame wasn't out. And if you watch those goals that they scored to go ahead, they were off of rides. They were off of scrappy ground ball play in between the lines. They were off of face-offs. And they were off of broken plays caused by hard work.
The Ohio State-Denver game, you talk about a game of runs. Ohio State goes up 7-1. And then all of a sudden, the Denver goalie could not see he had a great round of 16 game last week against, was it Brown? Against Brown. Brownie played great. He could not see anything. Next thing you know, he gets hit with one shot. And we don't have Coach Hetler in the room, the goalie, but As soon as he got hit with the shot, then he started seeing the ball. Denver goes on a run, and they went on like a 14-2 run like that, where they got up 15-10, and Ohio State made it interesting late. But that's going to be a great semifinal, Final Four Denver Notre Dame matchup. But when you talk about the games at Annapolis, we talked about Hopkins, Syracuse. UNC Maryland is just two completely contrasting styles. You have UNC that just likes to let the horses out of the barn, as Tate Chizoka said last week. They like to run and gun. Maryland, if Maryland could win 2-1 or 1-0, they would love to. But I think people have figured out Maryland's scheme and their defense. I think the faceoff guys banged up, so I'm going UNC big today.
I think, looking at that game, that's good analysis just by the way they play. But the thing, the specter that hangs over that game is UNC in the playoffs at this stage. Can they get past because they've been bounced, either in the first round or the second round for
years now,
15
right?
years, 20 years. It's not been good, and that's a coach can do as much as he can to prepare his players, and his players can play as much as they want. But if that isn't in the back of their mind, like that's something, like as an analyst, when you watch stuff, like you always have the history.
But at the same point, Maryland hasn't won a championship since 1970 something. So
it's true.
They have a little history.
They've been in quite a bit of Final Fours, but I think this is the day that they exercise those demons there and they move on, because I've been as critical as anybody of Coach Bresci, but the reality is the team is so loaded. I mean, they're loaded at every position. I don't think that Maryland's defense, will be good enough to stop that offense. That offense is that good. Yeah. I actually like the fact that if you look at the Annapolis bracket, right, it's all these high-powered, experienced teams all have titles to their and then you look to the West and you have every team that's out there has never won a title. So we're going to have somebody in the final this year who's going to have a chance to win their first national title. So. I love it. Now, my phone was blowing up in the first part of that Ohio State game because I, like Kyle, have our bracket on the public domain. So people saw that I picked Denver to win the whole thing.
Tell them where they can see that.
Oh, they can see that right there on 603 Lax.
There you go.
But no, I have Denver winning it all just because of Coach Tierney and their style of play. I like it. But it would not surprise me if any one of the four teams playing today wins it all. There's too much talent out there.
Again, Hopkins and Syracuse at noon, 2:30. We'll see North Carolina at Maryland.